And did you say that you consider yourself to be a reporter?
Blogger. I said whatever people take it as, reporter, blogger.
Well, haven't you maintained in the past that you're a reporter?
No, I said blogger.
Is this remunerative? Do you have advertisers or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Have you ever been to journalism school?
No, sir.
Have you ever been trained in journalism?
No, sir.
So
Just outside the scope of my direct, I believe.
So you're a blogger?
I'm a blogger, yes, sir. Just as Julie is, yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you that. Do you know a Tracy Powell?
Yes, sir.
Did she work for you at one time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was she an integral part of SBY News?
For a brief period, she was a part of Salisbury News, yeah.
What would you say a brief period would be?
About a year of our 8-year existence.
Okay. And how many other employees, when Miss Powell was working for you, how many other employees did you have?
Objection. Just
I'll get to it, Judge.
Really don't know where we're going here.
Well, we'll find out.
Yeah.
There are no employees.
Did Miss Powell
I am just the only employee there. Miss Powell did not work for me. She volunteered.
Okay. And was she, did she volunteer and work for you on a daily basis?
Sure, yeah.
Would she be familiar with the blogging, how it's done and things like that?
Yes, sir.
Would you be familiar with who was blogging?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Would she be familiar with who was blogging on your site?
Who was blogging?
Yeah, who the blogger
I assume that anybody who bothered to read it would be familiar with it.
Well,
it would be out there
I guess I'm talking about the contributors, Judge. That was a very article. Would she?
Well, that doesn't make any difference. You remind me of those idiots, for want of a better word, in Congress who are bound and determined to get the names of contributors to political campaign contributions. And I would say to you the same thing that I would say to them. They are not entitled to know who someone votes for, and they are not entitled to know who someone makes political contributions to, because the obvious connection can be made, and why they can't figure that out, I don't know. But then again, as we know in this particularly vicious political season, where success is now under attack, and various other things. I don't know, maybe it all started with Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings. But as Joseph Goebbels said, and you can put this in your blog if you wish, if you repeat a lie long enough, people will believe it. And we have proof of the pudding now in that there was an allegation about Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings, and for years it said there could have been a representative of Jefferson's family, not Jefferson, who was responsible, but said, however, now it has come full circle. And I read in mainstream newspapers that Sally Hemings or Thomas Jefferson was definitely the father of Sally Hemings' child, which has not been proven, and the DNA tests say that it cannot be established one way or the other that there is a family relationship, but that's all that they can prove.
Judge, I wasn't interested in it. The follow-up question would be, do you author any of these anonymous?
He said he didn't.
I do not, no.
Okay. And Ms. Powell, would Ms. Powell know whether you did or not?
Absolutely. Well, I can't answer for that. I mean, you would have more of an answer than I would, wouldn't you?
Now, the reason I ask is you used the royal we, that we were doing this and we were doing that. Who was the we you were talking about?
Well, that's kind of a flaw of mine. I do that constantly on pretty much everything I do. I don't like taking the I's.
When you speak we, you mean you?
Yes, sir.
Well, Richard Nixon used the same thing. So in other words, it means when you say we, it's I. Is that correct?
In many cases, yes.
Okay. Judge, my petitioner's one.
What? Petitioners 1?
That's it.
Yes.
I'll show you petitioners 1. You're familiar with those comments about Ms. Brewington, are you not?
Yes.
Did you author any of those?
No, sir. I
Said he
already
did
answered
not.
that.
Testified earlier.
Why
he
would
did
you
not.
permit those to be published on your blog?
Well, first let me explain that I do not do all the moderating of the comments on Salisbury News.
Okay.
We have contributors, just like Julie used to be, in which they have access to go in there and moderate comments. I did not moderate all these comments.
Why would you allow those comments to go out on the 25th of July last week about her and her children, Mr. Albero? It's your site. We means I. Why would you allow that to happen?
It is their
Don't you
First
find that
Amendment
to be
right.
okay, go ahead. Tell us about the First Amendment.
It's their right. It is their right, just like the Grapevine and the Daily Times.
Well, you answered the court's question, the very salient question Judge Heyman asked you is, can't you eliminate the vile and vicious comments? Your answer was yes. Why didn't you eliminate these?
Mr. Moore, I can tell you that there are 8 comments marked here, and
Why
there
did
were
you
probably
eliminate
30, and many of them were rejected.
So you chose to leave those there.
These ones here were chosen by
By
contributor and myself.
Okay. That's all the questions I have for you, Mr. Albero. And shame on you.
You're
You're here. That's it.
Mr. Albero, is your blog monitored, monitored constantly for comments?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So when this comment I think she is very attractive, but a friend of mine, hearsay, or that's the legal term, gossip would be another, told me she was rubbing his 5 asterisks and maybe an N parent, all drunk at Adam's Ribs one night, and her husband was there. That when that came in, his is not identified. The substitution of the asterisks implies to me, at least, that they are a substitute for a word among the 25 4-letter favorites. Then you had the power to delete that when it came in, or whoever was monitoring your
That's correct,
your blog.
yes.
And you did not, because it was still there that came in at 11:05 a.m. and at 12:19 p.m. a comment was made, no doubt, she is a nymph, which was also not deleted. What would be the reason for letting something like this stand?
Truthfully, those are pretty mild compared to some of the comments that come in, not on only my site, but on Ms. Brewington's site as well.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe nymph is a shortened version of nymphomaniac. Now, it may be that she's a wood nymph or something like that, but without clarification, it is subject to either interpretation. And if I understand what you just said, you said that there were a whole lot worse comments which were in fact deleted, but these two were permitted to stand.
I can tell you truthfully, I did not moderate those comments.
Okay.
I did not. A contributor to the site did, but I did not. And I'm not trying to make an excuse, it's the truth.
Well, let me ask you this. You said if you were in the clear light of day and based on what has happened and why we're here today, if those two comments came in, would you delete them?
I wouldn't let them through.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. And
who's the other moderator?
That's private.
Don't answer that. Here. Unless the judge asks you.
All right. Do you have any written guidelines or rules for in-house rules for people other than yourself who moderate or monitor this site?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What are your rules with regard to children?
Well, first of all, you can't mention the children's names, but that's the big key. I wouldn't put children in there, period, to be honest with you. I would not put children in there. So we dealt with that years and years ago on the blog, and I think we all came to a term.
Wasn't there something about the children, her daughter being
I think someone said
next
on there.
He wrote that one.
Who's talking about?
The talk about the daughter being supervised by a known sex offender or whatever it said.
Yeah, like I said, I was saying to you just a moment ago that we learned years earlier that the kids were just going to become off limits. Davis Ruark and the rest of the bloggers, including myself, had an understanding at that point that we were just not going to do that.
Okay, and that's the current.
That was the current agreement.
And you.
On a post, Your Honor.
Do you agree with that personally as well as professionally?
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So isn't there a comment about her kids will be just like her at the bottom of petition 1? That slipped through the cracks also, Ms. Chalabera.
Well, Mr. Moore, it's... I was... Mr. Albero, Ms. Brewington, Mr. Rommel, Mr. Moore. I was fortunate enough to attend the University of Virginia as an undergraduate and for a semester at law school. And they had an article called The Honor Men that was written by a man who graduated in 1903. And it was essentially, because the school at the time was almost exclusively male, with except education school and the nursing school, about what makes a gentleman. And I remember one line in it about that a gentleman pursues no woman to her tears. Now, that's probably not going to happen with the women active politically, but they have broad shoulders and they'll have to take their chances. But otherwise, and children are absolutely off limits. All right, who wants to be heard on the law on these cases?